Okay, imagine this as a movie. You're on a small wooden yacht in 1884, way out in the open ocean. No satellites, no radios, no Coast Guard. A freak wave hits. The boat goes under in minutes. Four of you make it into a tiny lifeboat with almost nothing. A couple of cans of turnips. No fresh water, no land in sight. Days go by, you eat the turnips, you catch one turtle, then nothing. The sun cooks you all day. You're drinking nothing. Your tongue feels like sandpaper. Your skin is raw. You're too weak to stand. One of the four is a 17-year-old cabin boy. He panics and drinks seawater. He gets sick fast. Delirious. In and out of consciousness. He's the weakest of you now. You look at your captain. He looks at you. Someone says the quiet part out loud. If we don't eat, we die. If someone dies, maybe the others live. No rescue in sight. No help coming. So two of the men decide. Kill the boy while he's unconscious. Eat his body, drink his blood for water. They do it. A few days later, a ship appears on the horizon and rescues the three survivors. Back on land, they tell the story honestly. They really believed they did what they had to do. They say, we were going to die, he would have died first anyway. Killing him saved us. The case goes to court in England. R.V. Dudley and Stephens. And the judges basically say, no, necessity is not a defense to murder. You do not get to kill an innocent person, even to save your own life. That's the Lifeboat Cannibalism case. And it still hits a nerve today. Because the real question underneath is this. Is it ever okay to deliberately sacrifice one innocent life to save more lives? You've seen this theme already with the trolley problem and the transplant case. But here, it's not an abstract lever or a thought experiment. It's starving, desperate humans in a boat. So let's sit in that lifeboat for a bit. Think about the arguments on both sides. On one side, there's the hard survival logic. Without killing the boy, everyone would have died within days. The boy was already weak, unconscious, and likely to die first. Killing one to save three looks like a brutal form of math, but still math. This is utilitarian thinking. You look at total suffering and total survival. You choose the option that saves the most lives or reduces total suffering, even if the method feels ugly. On the other side, there's a very different intuition. The boy didn't consent. He wasn't chosen by lottery. He didn't attack anyone. He was simply the weakest and easiest to kill. From this view, human life isn't just a number in an equation. There's a line you don't cross. You don't murder an innocent person. Full stop. Even if you're starving. Even if you're scared. Even if it means you die instead. That's closer to a rights-based or dignity-based view. Some acts are just off limits, no matter how good the outcome looks on paper. The court chose this second view. Legally, they said, murder is still murder. Necessity is not an excuse for killing an innocent. Because if we accept we had to as a defense, where does it stop? One of the judges warned that allowing this principle would be like putting a legal cloak for unbridled passion and atrocious crime over anything people claim they had to do. In simple language, if you let people kill when they need to, everyone will start calling their desires needs. So on paper, the law draws a hard line. But your brain probably doesn't. Most people, when they first hear this story, feel torn. Part of you says, this is disgusting. You don't kill a kid to save yourself. Another part whispers, but if I were starving and watching my own kids at home in my head and rescue was nowhere, would I really just lie down and die? That's exactly why this is a powerful moral dilemma. It's not just, what's the rule? It's who do you become when survival is on the line? Now zoom out The lifeboat isn't just about four sailors in 1884, it's also become a metaphor for the world. In the 1970s, ecologist Garrett Hardin wrote about lifeboat ethics. He imagined rich countries as lifeboats with limited capacity, surrounded by poor people in the water. His question was ugly on purpose. If you save everyone, the lifeboat sinks and all die. If you save no one, you stay safe, but others drown. If you save some, who do you pick, and on what basis? He used this to argue against certain kinds of foreign aid and open immigration, saying we risk swamping the lifeboat if we try to help everyone. It's a harsh argument, and many people strongly disagree with his conclusions, but the metaphor stuck because it forces us to confront scarcity and selection. In both the real case and the metaphor, the core questions are similar. When resources are truly limited, who, if anyone, do you sacrifice? Who gets to decide? What criteria are fair, or are all criteria ugly here? That's why teachers still use lifeboat and who gets a seat activities in ethics and social studies classes today. They know students will immediately feel how unfair and impossible the choices are. But I don't want this to stay abstract. Let's bring it closer. You actually live in many lifeboat dilemmas all the time. Not cannibalism, but who pays the cost so others can keep floating? Think about healthcare triage during a pandemic. When ventilators are limited, doctors have to choose who gets one and who doesn't. Not in theory, in real hospitals. They use criteria like survival chances, age, comorbidities, but behind those charts is the same lifeboat pain. Some live, some don't, and humans had to choose. Climate change and rich versus poor countries. Richer countries used up a lot of the carbon budget to get rich. Now we tell poorer countries, you need to cut emissions too. Lifeboat question. Who sacrifices growth? Who absorbs the biggest hit so others can stay comfortable? Corporate or government cuts. When budgets are tight, some departments, communities, or programs are cut to save the whole. People lose jobs, services, safety nets, so the larger system doesn't collapse. We often dress this up in clean language. Optimizing resources. Tough but necessary decisions. Protecting the system. But underneath, it's the same structure. Someone bears the worst pain, so the majority can stay afloat. Are we okay with that? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Often it depends. So how do you even begin to think about these choices without going numb? Let me give you 3 lenses and 3 questions you can carry with you. Lens 1, the numbers lens. Save the most you can. This is the utilitarian lens. You ask, which option saves the most lives? Which option reduces total suffering the most? For ventilator triage or organ allocation, this lens is powerful and often necessary. It pushes you to be consistent, to avoid favoritism, and to think about the bigger picture. Many public health guidelines lean heavily on some version of this. But if you only use this lens, people become numbers. You risk treating an individual like the cabin boy, primarily as meat for the math. Lens 2, the line lens. Some things we just don't do. This is the dignity/rights, lem never again lens. Here, you say, no matter how bad it gets, we do not cross this line. We do not torture. We do not enslave. We do not harvest people. We do not execute the weak. This is the spirit of the Dudley and Stephens ruling. The law wanted to draw a hard line around deliberate killing of an innocent, even when starving. The strength of this lens is that it protects individuals from being sacrificed in the name of the greater good. The weakness is that in extreme situations, sticking to the line can feel impossible, even inhuman, to the people actually trapped in the lifeboat. Lens 3, the system lens. Why is this a lifeboat at all? This lens steps back and asks, Why are we in a situation where we must choose who dies? Who designed this system? Who benefits from calling this necessary? Are we dealing with true scarcity or engineered scarcity and bad planning? Sometimes there really isn't enough. 4 men in a tiny boat, no food, no water, true hard limits. But other times, lifeboat conditions are the result of previous decisions. Underfunded healthcare that leads to triage disasters. Economic setups that leave some countries permanently drowning while others cruise. Supply chains and policies that make certain communities the ones who always pay. The system lens doesn't solve the immediate choice, but it stops you from acting like the emergency was natural and inevitable when it might actually be the product of human decisions. So here are the 3 questions you can actually use in your own life when you feel that lifeboat pressure. Am I about to let someone else quietly pay the price for my comfort? That could be a coworker taking all the blame, a family member carrying all the emotional load, or an unseen group suffering so your products stay cheap. Is this truly the only way, or does calling it necessary just protect the system I'm used to? Sometimes there is no better option. Other times, necessity is just what we call it when we don't want to imagine a different design. If I were the person in the weakest position here, the cabin boy, the swimmer outside the lifeboat, would I still think this was fair? This is your built-in fairness check. It doesn't fix everything, but it stops you from only ever seeing through the eyes of the people already inside the boat. Back to that tiny lifeboat in 1884. If you had been one of those 4 men, starving, dehydrated, watching the youngest slowly fade, do I know for sure what you would have done? No. And neither do you. That's part of the honesty of moral dilemmas. They don't just test your theories, they test your self-knowledge. What the Dudley and Stephens case does, like all the best lifeboat stories, is force you to hold 2 uncomfortable truths at the same time. First, it is deeply human to want to live, even at terrible cost. Second, it is dangerous to let "I had no choice" become a blank check for harming others. Most of your life will not look like a cannibalism case in a Victorian courtroom. But in smaller ways, you will keep facing situations where the easiest path keeps you comfortable. Because someone else, somewhere, silently pays. And in those moments, the real question isn't, would I kill the cabin boy? It's, when my comfort depends on someone else's quiet suffering. Do I notice? Do I care? And am I willing, even a little, to give up some safety? So I'm not just another person eating well in someone else's lifeboat.